August 2025. The waters of the Sea of Japan, bordered by Russia, Japan, and Korea, became the stage for one of the most closely watched naval drills of the year. Russian warships steamed beside Chinese destroyers, their wakes cutting sharp lines across contested waters. Overhead, helicopters roared while missile tubes angled skyward. This was Joint Sea 2025, a show of power that echoed far beyond its exercise area. Stay tuned, and before we dive in, hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive from Naval Brief. To casual observers, Joint Sea 2025 might have looked like a routine military exercise, but every move carried weight. Russia and China weren't just practicing, they were signaling. Each maneuver sent ripples through Tokyo, Seoul, Washington, and beyond. For allies of the United States, the drill was not just two navies training together. It was two powers demonstrating their ability to coordinate in waters that mattered deeply to U.S. strategy. These exercises have a history stretching back more than a decade. The first Joint Sea took place in 2012 in the Yellow Sea, with only a handful of ships. By 2013, the drills expanded to the Sea of Japan. In 2015, they shifted as far as the Mediterranean, a symbolic challenge to NATO's backyard. 2 years later, they appeared in the Baltic, sending ripples across northern Europe. In 2017, Chinese and Russian navies practiced amphibious landings. By the early 2020s, these once modest displays had grown into complex operations. They included carrier groups, submarine hunts, and amphibious landings. What began as a symbolic gesture of cooperation had transformed into rehearsals of coordinated warfighting. Joint Sea became less about diplomacy and more about showing that Russia and China could project power together, across oceans, not just near their shores. The Sea of Japan was no random choice in 2025. To the east sits Japan, a U.S. ally bristling with missile defenses and home to American bases at Yokosuka and Misawa. To the south lies South Korea, its navy highly capable and its alliance with the U.S. ironclad. To the north, Russia signals that it can still project force into the Pacific despite the drag of Ukraine. And to the west, China presses its reach into waters once dominated by others. Every sonar ping, every radar sweep, every missile launch carried echoes far beyond the horizon. For Japan, it was a reminder of how close these drills came to its shores. For South Korea, a sign of coordination between two potential adversaries. And for Washington, a new data point in a growing pattern of Russia-China military cooperation. Warships fired live ammunition in thunderous salvos. Anti-submarine helicopters dipped low, scattering waves as they dropped sonar buoys that sent pulses into the deep. Crews practiced hunting and neutralizing submarines that weren't there, but could be one day. Chinese destroyers maneuvered in lockstep with Russian frigates, their formations tight and deliberate. Above, maritime patrol aircraft scanned the seas while boarding teams stormed mock vessels with practiced aggression. Amphibious units rehearsed landings on designated stretches of coastline, their drills carried out with precision. And then there were the unseen watchers. USP-8 Poseidon aircraft orbited high, their sensors drinking in every signature. Japanese patrol planes hugged the edges of the exercise zone, tracking radar contacts. Beneath the waves, American submarines almost certainly shadowed silently, recording propeller signatures and logging each maneuver. These subs would have been close enough to hear the rumble of engines and the splash of sonar buoys hitting the water. Their hydrophones could trace the acoustic fingerprints of every vessel in the exercise. For intelligence officers back on shore, this was gold. Each sound filed away in libraries used to track ships in future conflicts. Poseidon aircraft relayed signals in real time, feeding analysts who built a second-by-second map of the drill. High above, satellites added another layer of surveillance. Infrared sensors picked up the heat bloom of missile launches. Synthetic aperture radar traced the movement of formations through clouds and darkness. The Sea of Japan was alive with watchers, a hidden audience that turned the drill into a live intelligence harvest. For Russia and China, that was the point. Let them watch. Let them know these two navies could operate together under pressure. Every signature picked up by Allied sensors was another signal sent. We can do this together, and we're willing to do it in contested waters. For Japan, Joint Sea 2025 landed far too close for comfort. Conducted just outside its waters, it sent a message aimed directly at Tokyo. Russia and China can coordinate on your doorstep. Every missile fired, every submarine tracked reinforced that point. For South Korea, the signals were equally sharp. Seoul saw two powers practicing coordination in waters not far from its ports and shipping lanes. In Washington, analysts debated a sobering question. Could this cooperation harden into a wartime partnership? Was this simply a drill or a rehearsal for a future contingency? And in NATO capitals from Brussels to London, the question was the same. How closely would Russia and China stand together if crises in Europe and Asia collided? Domestic audiences were part of the script too. For Moscow, battered by sanctions and stretched by war, Joint Sea was proof to its people and its rivals that Russia was not alone. It still had a navy willing to sail with China. For Beijing, it was reassurance to its citizens and a signal abroad. China is not encircled, and it has partners ready to operate side by side in contested seas. The Sea of Japan became a stage, a theater of steel and fire, watched worldwide. Every maneuver was documented, every splash and salvo observed by rivals and allies alike. The theater may have been choreographed, but the message was not scripted in diplomacy. It was written in hardware, coordination, and presence. But the geography gave the drills their sharper edge. The Sea of Japan is ringed by power. Japan to the east, Korea to the south, Russia to the north, China looming to the west. And above it all, U.S. treaty commitments that bind it to respond if allies are threatened. This is not empty ocean. It's one of the most militarized seas on the planet, and any exercise here carries echoes of confrontation. As the exercise wrapped up, official communiques spoke of friendship, stability, and cooperation. But the real message was written in steel and smoke. These drills weren't about practice. They were about presence. They were about showing allies and adversaries that Russia and China, though different in many ways, could stand shoulder to shoulder at sea. Joint Sea 2025 wasn't only training. It was positioning. It wasn't just practice. It was partnership under pressure, echoing across one of the world's most contested waters. Every maneuver was a reminder that the balance of power in the Pacific is shifting, and shifting fast. And for those of you watching closely, the message was clear. Power here is measured in presence, force, and steel at sea. Anchor this is Naval Brief, your briefing room for sea power and defense analysis. If you're all hands on deck for real naval operations, maritime conflict, and global defense, subscribe and stay mission ready for the next briefing.